The series opens with Amiri narrating the story of Harper, her closest friend, the one she's known since childhood, because they've basically grown up side by side, then walked into high school together as a unit, built on loyalty and a weirdly identical rhythm of life. So much so that neither of them has ever dated. Meanwhile, they've spent years watching their classmates get into relationships, taking notes on every little detail, writing down whatever they can learn, until the two of them become so sharp they can practically read the secrets behind every boy-girl situation in their school, eventually going one step further by drawing a full relationship map in the school basement, connecting every student and every couple like it's a hidden investigation. Later on, the story shifts to the first days back at high school after the break, as Amiri gets herself ready to head out, while her friends Sasha and Missy pull up to pick her up in the car, and Amiri immediately notices Harper isn't with them, so she asks where she is. However, Sasha and Missy admit they couldn't even find her at home, which makes Amiri assume Harper must have already gone ahead to school. On the drive over, Sasha stops at a red light, and suddenly another car pulls up with 3 guys inside, mocking their ride and throwing insults, calling Sasha poor. And at that moment, Amiri snaps, launching her juice cup straight at them, which makes Sasha and Missy burst out laughing, proud of her, like she just took the win in front of everyone. As soon as they reach school, Amiri walks in and spots Dusty, the guy she's had a crush on for 5 years. So Sasha asks if she's finally going to talk to him this year, but Amiri plays it cool, insisting she'll let him come to her instead. She strolls right past him, acting like she didn't even notice, and right on cue, Dusty steps in, tries to start a conversation, then asks about her holiday, while Amiri answers with calculated confidence, exaggerating just enough to pull him in closer. However, the second she gets a chance, she starts scanning the place for Harper again, only to realize she still can't find her anywhere. Then everything shifts fast. One of the students rushes up, telling them to get to the basement immediately because someone found the relationship map. And in that instant, Amiri's stomach drops, fear hitting hard because she knows exactly who drew it. So she follows the crowd while pretending she has no clue what anyone's talking about. As soon as the students crowd around the map, the whole school suddenly sees everything. Who dated who cheated on who, plus the secrets nobody ever knew were real. So within minutes, the hallway turns into a battlefield, with students arguing, accusing, and exploding over betrayals that just got dragged into the light. Meanwhile, Dusty notices something that throws him off completely. His name is linked in a line leading straight to Amiri, even though they've never dated, not even once. And he just stands there confused, staring at it like it makes no sense. At that moment, Amiri feels the heat rush to her face. The embarrassment hits hard, and she slips out fast before anyone can lock eyes with her for too long. Not long after, the principal calls an emergency student meeting, determined to find out who made the map, while also trying to lecture everyone about the relationships happening inside the school, insisting it isn't appropriate for their age. However, the students clown her, brushing it off like a joke, refusing to take her seriously. Then suddenly, Harper walks into the meeting, looking like a completely different person, her head shaved, her clothes strange, her whole vibe unreadable. So Amiri calls out to her immediately, expecting her to come over. Yet Harper doesn't respond, doesn't even acknowledge her, then chooses a seat far away like Amiri doesn't exist, leaving Amiri stunned and trying to figure out what went wrong, assuming Harper must be upset about something. After the meeting, Amiri tries again, chasing a moment to talk. However, Harper walks off and leaves her standing there, which only makes Amiri more confused, so she rewinds her memory to the last festival they attended together before the break, because in Amiri's mind, they were happy. Everything felt normal. Nothing seemed broken. Then, at that exact moment, the principal's voice blasts over the school microphone, calling Amiri's name, and Amiri's heart drops, instantly convinced she's been exposed. She heads to the office, where the principal starts pressing her for details, asking whether the relationships on the map are true, whether any of it is real, or if it's all made up. So Amiri insists it was just a joke, nothing serious, no harm intended. However, the principal makes it clear there will be consequences, announcing that everyone will be punished through mandatory sex ed lessons during school hours. A beat later, the principal leans in with the real question. Was Amiri the only one who drew it? Because she's certain Harper was involved too. Yet Amiri refuses to give up her best friend's name, claiming she did it alone. And that's when the principal warns her bluntly, one more mistake, even a small one, and she'll be expelled. Mary steps out of the principal's office and freezes. Harper is standing right there. At that moment, Mary rushes to explain that the principal found out about the relationship map while carefully leaving out the one detail that could blow everything up. She never mentions Harper was her partner in it. However, Harper's reaction is ice cold. She says she doesn't care. Mary stares at her, shocked, then points out she should at least be grateful. Yet Harper snaps back that she never asked Mary to protect her in the first place. Meanwhile, Mary insists she's her closest friend and would never throw her under the bus, but Harper cuts her off with a line that hits like a slap. They're not friends anymore, so Mary needs to leave her alone. Mary's temper flares, and she demands an explanation. What happened? Why is Harper suddenly pushing her away like this? Harper doesn't soften. She tells Mary to stay away because their relationship is over. Then suddenly it turns physical. Harper swings and lands a brutal hit, and the two of them clash right there in school. However, Harper takes control, slams Mary down, and Mary ends up on the floor so hard she actually blacks out. When Mary finally comes to, she's in the school nurse's office, still completely lost, unable to understand what could make Harper hate her that much. A little later, Mary walks out of the clinic and spots Harper standing with Sasha and Missy. As soon as they notice Mary, they quickly walk away, like she's contagious. Mary calls out to Sasha and finds out Sasha's furious because her name was written on the map, so she throws it in Mary's face, telling her she needs help, that she's sick. At that moment, Mary tries to defend herself by saying Harper was involved too. Yet Sasha doesn't buy it for a second, assuming Mary is only saying that to protect Harper and shift the blame. Not long after, the principal announces a list of students who will have to attend the mandatory sex ed sessions, and the names hit one after another. Amory, Harper, Sasha, Quinny, Darren, Dusty, until Malachi hears his name as well, which makes no sense to him since he's brand new at the school and hasn't done anything. While Malachi is still confused, he spots Mary walking ahead and asks what this gathering is about, since he has no idea about the map. However, Mary answers him with attitude, assuming he's mocking her. Eventually, they all head to the classroom where the principal is waiting, and that's where they meet the teacher running the sessions, JoJo, who's about to take charge of teaching them what healthy relationships look like, plus how to treat each other without turning everything into chaos. Mary walks into the room and instantly feels the shift. Everyone's against her. Suddenly, the bullying starts, the whispers get louder, and nobody wants to talk to her, not even sit beside her, as if she's the reason the whole school caught fire. However, two people refuse to follow the crowd, Darren and Quinny. Even though Mary used to mock them too, they still choose to stand near her, giving her the only small island of safety in that room. When class finally ends, Mary slips away and hides in the bathroom, sitting alone like she's trying to disappear. Meanwhile, Quinny hears her chewing inside, realizes Mary wants space, then gently tries to talk to her anyway. However, Mary snaps, starts a fight, then storms out, leaving Quinny behind. After school, Mary waits until everyone clears out, then walks out after them, trying to avoid more eyes on her. At that moment, Miss JoJo spots her, steps in, and surprises her with something unexpected. She says the map isn't just chaos, it's actually a strong idea, something that could help them understand what's going on, maybe even correct the students' behavior. Then JoJo gets serious, asking Mary not to skip school, not to disappear, and especially not to do anything to hurt herself, because high school is only a phase, it passes, and it won't happen twice in the same life. Mary thanks her, then decides she needs answers, so she heads straight to Harper's house. There, she asks Harper's father if Harper is home. However, tension shows on his face immediately, and he claims he doesn't know where she is, then turns it back on Mary. Didn't she see Harper at school? Mary admits she did, yet they fought, and she couldn't get through to her. Harper's father brushes it off, saying they always fight, they'll make up later, and Mary forces a thank you before walking away. Eventually, she sits in the spot she always shared with Harper, and the emotions finally break through. She cries alone in the place that used to feel safe. Meanwhile, word spreads across the town about what happened at Hartley High, and the school's reputation takes a brutal hit, so bad that local shops refuse to hire students from that school at all. At the same time, Darren is out job hunting, and he decides to lie to a restaurant owner just to get a chance at work. Later on, Mary returns home and finds her mother waiting, furious about the disaster at school. However, Mary shuts it down, saying she doesn't want to talk, then locks herself in her room. That night, she completely unravels. She decides to cut her hair, stays up crying for hours, and by morning her mother can tell she's breaking, so she tries to pull her out of it by taking her to a restaurant. As it turns out, it's the exact same place Darren works. Darren spots Amory as soon as she sits down, quietly films her while she's there, then notices how depressed and wrecked she looks, and in that moment he genuinely feels for her, so he offers to fix her haircut. They step out of the restaurant together, then head off to meet Quinny, who immediately tries to pull Mary out of that heavy spiral. To shock her back into feeling something, Quinny tells her to scream as loud as she can. So Mary actually does it, yelling that the people she loved most abandoned her. Meanwhile, Darren comes up with a plan, suggesting they go to the cemetery party, a weekly student hangout that happens every Saturday night. And after Darren and Quinny keep reassuring her, promising they'll stay with her the whole time, Mary finally agrees. At the party, Mary arrives with them, yet the moment people spot her, the crowd turns vicious. Insults fly, jokes land hard, and everyone blames her for exposing them, not to mention forcing them into extra classes. However, Malachi notices what's happening, and it becomes clear he's into her. As soon as he sees the heat closing in, he jumps into the middle of the party and starts dancing like a maniac, intentionally stealing the spotlight so the attention shifts off Mary. Mary catches on, and for the first time in a while, she actually smiles, because someone, even a near stranger, just chose to protect her. While the chaos continues, a guy named Cash shows up dealing drugs to students, and Darren goes over to him, questioning why he's still at the school, since he fails every year, and now he's 18. So Cash simply says he has his reasons, refusing to explain anything more. Later on, Mary ends up sitting alone, and suddenly Dusty appears in front of her, asking the question that's been bothering him. Why did she connect the two of them on the map when they aren't even dating? Mary tries to brush it off, telling him not to focus on it, claiming it was only a joke. However, Dusty won't let it go, pushing until she finally admits the truth. She's liked him for a long time. At that moment, Dusty leans in and kisses her. Then they agree to hang out another time, and Mary lights up so hard she almost wants to scream from happiness. Not long after, Mary spots Harper sitting alone, and she decides to try again. She tells Harper she went to her dad's house looking for her, but couldn't find her there. Suddenly, Harper snaps, demanding to know why Mary bothered her father in the first place. Mary looks genuinely confused, insisting she didn't bother him at all. Yet Harper keeps going, escalating the fight, calling Mary mentally unstable. That's when Mary fires back, saying Harper is the unstable one, the one who ruined her life, because Mary is convinced Harper told the principal about her. However, Harper dismisses it with cold contempt, telling Mary she thinks their little map or her crush on Dusty is somehow important, then claiming Mary doesn't know anything about real life because she's still just a child. Mary insists that isn't a reason to abandon her, yet Harper shuts the door completely. She says she doesn't want Amory in her life anymore, then walks away and leaves her standing there. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens cuts through the night, and the entire party scatters like someone hit a switch. Students sprint in every direction, desperate to get home before they're caught. In the chaos, Dusty takes off running and ends up right beside Harper. Without thinking, they keep pace together all the way toward her house, and along the way, something shifts. Dusty's interest in her becomes obvious. Their distance closes, and the tension between them starts to feel personal. Meanwhile, Mary heads home buzzing with hope, convinced her longtime dream of finally being with Dusty is about to come true. The next morning at school, she spots Harper with the rest of the group, climbing out of a car, laughing and talking like everything's perfect. And that sight hits Mary hard because she's suddenly outside the circle, walking alone again. Then one of the bullies walks up, throws her bag to the ground, and at that moment, the pressure finally snaps. Mary screams, begging everyone to stop hurting her, to stop treating her like a target. Dusty steps in to help, staying with her for a moment, trying to talk her down. However, the second Mary asks about last night, tension flashes across his face, like he's hiding something. Not long after, Dusty goes straight to Harper, making it painfully clear he's into her. Then he suggests they should hang out sometime. Harper plays it cool, saying she'll think about it, yet her reaction gives her away. She's interested too. Later on, during the sex ed session, Quinny drops something and bends down to pick it up, and suddenly she notices writing under the desk. Someone has scribbled that Harper and Dusty are together. Quinny freezes, shocked, and she doesn't know what to do, whether to warn Mary or keep quiet. A little later, Mary hears about a party happening at Dusty's house, where his father holds an important position, and the family regularly throws charity-style events to boost their public image and keep people voting for them. As soon as Mary hears that, she becomes determined to get in no matter what. However, the tickets are in the hands of a student named Ant, someone Mary put on the relationship map. So she decides to swallow her pride, approach him, and apologize, hoping he'll sell her a ticket. Ant refuses immediately because in his eyes, she didn't just embarrass him, she outed him in front of the entire school. Worse, his parents found out, punished him, and even forced him to go to church 3 days a week. At that point, Mary realizes it's over. He's not selling her anything. Mary decides she has one last option, so she goes to Spencer, the captain of the basketball team, and practically begs him to sell her a ticket. To sweeten the deal, she offers more than the original price. However, Spencer takes advantage of her desperation, jacks the cost up, and insists he won't sell for anything less than $100. Mary is furious, ready to walk away, when suddenly Malachi steps in and hands her his own ticket, telling her not to listen to the people around her. In that moment, Mary lights up, relieved, genuinely grateful, and she thanks him for always showing up for her. That night, the party finally arrives, and Mary shows up with Darren. However, the guy working the door recognizes her immediately. As soon as he sees her photo, he refuses to let her in because he knows she's the one who exposed the relationship map. Malachi notices what's happening, and without hesitation, he decides to help, leading Mary to climb the fence with him. Suddenly, the plan goes wrong. Mary slips, drops straight into the swimming pool, and the crowd roars with laughter, humiliating her all over again. She can't take it, so she rushes inside to the bathroom, while Darren and Quinny follow, helping her dry off and fix her clothes. After that, Amory heads to Dusty's room, moving closer to him because she still believes he's into her. However, someone calls for Dusty. He's about to sing at the party, so he leaves, and Mary follows, wanting to watch him perform. Meanwhile, Dusty's father is off to the side buying drugs from Kosh. Then he casually leaves his car keys sitting right there in front of him, and Cash notices immediately, clearly planning something. Dusty steps onto the stage, and right before he sings, he looks straight at Harper and announces the song is for her. Harper is stunned, and her eyes flick toward Mary, because Mary is frozen, unable to believe what she just heard. In that instant, it clicks. Harper is involved with Dusty. Mary bolts after Harper, demanding to know if she's doing this only to hurt her, only to twist the knife. However, Harper insists it happened without her wanting it to. Then she adds that this still isn't the real reason she pulled away in the first place, before walking off and leaving Mary standing there. Mary breaks. It feels like she's lost everything at once, and Malachi sees it all on her face. At that moment, he can't ignore it, so he offers to take her home. When Mary finally gets back, she goes straight upstairs, and eventually she decides to burn every photo she has with Harper. Every memory, every reminder, everything that still ties her to the friendship she just watched collapse. Meanwhile, Kosh shows up sitting with his crew inside Dusty's father's car, making it clear he really did steal it. From there, he drives off with the others to hit a sporting goods store, and the break-in turns fast. Shelves get wiped, gear gets grabbed, and everything valuable disappears into their hands. Suddenly, the police arrive, forcing them to scatter. However, Cash manages to take off with the stolen bag, escaping before anyone can stop him. The next day at school, Dusty tries to talk to Harper, demanding to know why she's been ignoring his calls. Harper shuts him down, saying she doesn't care about him, that they spent one night together and that's it. However, Dusty refuses to accept that, admitting he genuinely likes her and wants to take her out on a real date. Mary sees them talking, locks eyes with Harper for a second, then walks away with a look of pure disappointment. At that moment, Harper snaps, turns back to Dusty, and insists she isn't interested, doesn't want a relationship with him, then leaves him standing there. Later on in class, Quinny finally confesses to Mary that she already knew about Harper and Dusty, but she was scared to tell her. Mary doesn't even fight it. She says she loved Dusty alone for years while he acted like she didn't exist. So she's done trying, done believing, and she's decided she's never dating again. Meanwhile, in the gym, the coach calls Malachi and Spencer over, announcing they've been shortlisted to play at the district level, which could lead to college scholarships. Malachi is thrilled, and he suggests they train together at a gym. However, Spencer clearly hates the idea of sharing space with the new guy, treating Malachi with open arrogance. After practice, Malachi spots Mary, stops to talk, and his interest in her becomes obvious. Eventually, he asks her out, trying to turn it into an actual date. However, Mary dodges the question, changes the subject, then finds her escape and leaves him behind. Later on, Mary heads to the Environmental Justice Club, hoping to join something new and give herself a fresh start. The problem is, Sasha runs the club, and Mary practically pleads for a spot, saying she wants new hobbies. However, Sasha refuses, claiming Mary doesn't truly care about the environment and only wants attention, so she won't let her in. With that door slammed, Mary decides to try something completely different instead and signs up for the chess club. Meanwhile, Cash sneaks back to his house, the place he shares with his grandmother, then quickly grabs the bag he stole, determined to move it and hide it somewhere safer. Elsewhere, Harper sits with Sasha and Missy, talking about Dusty, and instead of warning her off, they hype her up, encouraging her to date him because it's obvious he's genuinely into her. Back at school, Dusty approaches Amiri and practically begs her for advice. He wants tips on how to win Harper over, since he already knows Harper isn't interested in him. Amiri forces a smile, acting like she's fine. However, the request cuts deep, so she decides to help him in the worst way possible. She tells him to do everything Harper supposedly hates. Talk about himself nonstop, overshare his feelings, be painfully honest about whatever's in his head. Dusty thanks her, completely unaware, then decides he'll go to Harper's house after school. When he gets there, Dusty opens up in a way he probably thinks will impress her. He admits he sometimes likes being the center of attention, which is exactly why he sang to her at the party. Then he goes even further, confessing he sees a therapist, and he starts spilling details about his life, like he can't stop himself. However, instead of getting turned off, Harper is unexpectedly into it. She lights up, seems genuinely pleased, and even decides he deserves a chance, though she still plays it cautious, telling him she'll think about it. Meanwhile, Kosh shows up at Darren's place asking him to hide the stolen bag for him. Suddenly, Darren's father overhears everything and lays down the ultimatum. Give the bag back, or he'll call the police on Kosh. Darren has no choice. He returns the bag, furious and frustrated. However, before Kosh leaves, Darren suggests a workaround, offering to hide it somewhere inside the school instead. Kash is grateful, and the two of them end up staying up together late into the night. The next day, the police arrive at Kash's house looking for him, but his grandmother refuses to let them in, insisting Kosh isn't there. Eventually, the officers leave, and the second the door shuts, his grandmother turns on him, furious, telling him not to repeat his mother's mistakes, not to throw away his future, and to stop running with criminals before it ruins him for good. Meanwhile, Malachi is in the gym with Spencer, training for their district shot. Spencer pushes the moment into a competition, mocking the amount of weight Malachi lifts, so Malachi tries to match him. However, he overdoes it, gets exhausted, then starts to feel dizzy. Spencer laughs it off, humiliates him, and says he doesn't want anyone weak on the team, before walking away and leaving Malachi behind. Malachi is crushed, yet instead of quitting, he decides to train alone. Meanwhile, Harper keeps trying to talk to Amiri again and again, hoping to apologize for what happened with Dusty. However, Amiri shuts her down every single time, refusing to give her even one honest minute. After school, Amiri heads out, and Malachi spots her walking past him, so he asks her to train with him. As soon as she agrees, they end up spending time together on the court, and little by little they grow closer, the chemistry getting harder to ignore. Eventually, Malachi asks her out, straight up, like he means it. Yet Amiri rejects him again, then walks away before it can turn into something real. The moment Amiri leaves the field, she finds Harper waiting for her. Amiri refuses to talk, storms off, and heads home. However, the second she gets there, she's stunned. Harper is waiting at her house too. Harper apologizes for the Dusty situation, and Amiri tries to rise above it, saying she doesn't really care about boys, that their friendship is bigger than that. Then, Harper hits her with the truth. She's not there to be friends again. She's only there to apologize for one specific moment, and that's it. Amiri is shaken, then demands an explanation, because the last time they were together at the festival, everything seemed fine. Harper goes quiet, and Amiri realizes something terrible. Something happened at that festival that Amiri either can't remember or never understood. Instead of explaining, Harper turns cruel. She tells Amiri she's selfish, that she only cares about herself and what benefits her. Then she orders her to stay away. Harper walks out of the house completely broken, and eventually she goes straight to Dusty. Not long after, Amiri makes a choice of her own. She goes to Malachi's house, and the two of them finally cross the line. They get together, spend the night together, happy, caught up in the moment, like the world finally stopped attacking her. The next day at school, Amiri walks into the hall and freezes. Malachi is standing in front of everyone, holding flowers. At that moment, he asks her to be his girlfriend, publicly. Amiri is shocked, unable to answer on the spot, and Darren quickly steps in with a save, suggesting she invite Malachi to a party Darren is throwing at his place, then give him her answer there instead. Amiri agrees, and later in class, she asks Malachi to come to Darren's party. Meanwhile, Malachi is at basketball practice, and once the session ends, he heads into the locker room with the rest of the team. That's where Spencer turns it into a show. He starts clowning Malachi for missing the district game because of Amiri, then loudly tells the whole team that Malachi got involved with her, turning their private relationship into public entertainment. Suddenly, everyone piles on, laughing at him, treating him like a joke. Later on in class, Spencer comes for Malachi again, this time right in front of Amiri. Amiri freezes when she realizes her boyfriend has been talking to his friends about them, and the humiliation hits her like a slap. At that moment, she decides she's done. She wants to break up. Malachi spends the entire day trying to fix it, chasing apologies, trying to explain himself. However, Mary refuses every attempt, holding the line no matter how much it hurts. Meanwhile, Harper is with Dusty, and the fear that's eating Mary starts eating her too. Harper asks him straight, does he talk to his friends about their relationship? Dusty swears he would never do that, begging her to believe him. Harper says she does, claiming she only wanted to be sure, and as soon as the tension eases, they drift even closer, their connection deepening. Elsewhere, Darren goes with Cash to retrieve the bag they hid on the school rooftop, but as soon as they get there, they realize it's gone. It's been stolen. Cash panics immediately because he knows his criminal friends will demand repayment and punish him if he can't deliver. Darren tries to steady him, promising he'll help, then tells Cash to come by the restaurant so he can give him money to pay his friend back. Cash takes the cash, agrees to return it the next day, then rushes off to meet his partner from the robbery. The moment the partner hears the bag is missing, he threatens to kill Cash if he doesn't pay up, then beats him just to make sure he remembers the warning. The next day, Darren's party finally happens. Quinny and Mary are already there with him when Malachi shows up, looking wrecked. He apologizes to Mary from the heart, asks her to forgive him, and Mary decides to give him one more chance. Later on, Kosh returns to Darren to pay back the money, and they spend the day together like nothing happened, just trying to breathe. That night, they all go to another party with the rest of the students, and for a while, it actually feels normal. After the party, Malachi walks with Mary and asks the question he can't shake. Does she still love Dusty? He saw the way she looked over. Mary answers honestly. She wasn't looking at Dusty. She was looking at Harper because the feeling of being abandoned is unbearable, and she never wants to feel it again. Malachi promises her she won't, not with him, then asks her, quietly, seriously, if she wants to be his girlfriend for real. Suddenly, the police show up to clear the street because students are packed everywhere, blocking the road like it's their territory. At that moment, one of the officers singles Malachi out for no reason, barking at him to move faster, then shoving him again and again in a way that feels deliberately humiliating. Malachi tries to keep walking, tries to swallow it. However, the pushing doesn't stop, and eventually he snaps back. In an instant, the officer hits him hard, so hard Malachi crashes to the ground. Then the cop bolts, disappearing before anyone can hold him accountable. Within seconds, students swarm around Malachi to shield him, forming a wall like they're trying to protect him from a second strike. Yet Malachi can't breathe. A panic attack hits, his body goes into survival mode, and suddenly he takes off running at full speed. Amiri, Harper, and Dusty sprint after him, desperate to calm him down before he breaks completely. Meanwhile, Mary's anger turns into a mission. She decides she's going to post the video of the officer attacking Malachi so the whole world sees what happened. However, Malachi spirals the moment he realizes what she's about to do. He begs her not to post it. Then his emotions flip into raw hysteria. He screams at her, tells her to get out of his life, that he doesn't want help from anyone. Then he runs again. Mary collapses inside, totally shattered. Before she can leave, Harper stops her and begs her not to abandon him. Yet Mary says it's Malachi who doesn't want her. So Harper and Dusty decide to chase him themselves. They bring him back to Dusty's house, keep him there until he calms down. Then the night dissolves into numbness, smoking together until they pass out, like they're trying to erase their minds. The next day, the three of them wake up, and it's instantly clear nobody wants to speak about what happened, because whatever went down between them the night before feels shameful, too ugly to say out loud. After that, Malachi disappears from school for days, and Mary keeps trying to reach him, calling, searching, waiting for any sign he'll answer. Eventually, Malachi finally returns, and Mary confronts him, asking what happened, asking what triggered that breakdown. Malachi doesn't explain. He only tells her they can meet that night. A moment later, he sees Harper and pulls her aside, admitting he doesn't want to remember that night, and he begs her not to tell Mary anything. Harper promises she won't say a word. Then she goes to Dusty, hoping to reconnect. However, Dusty feels different now. He avoids her, acts distant, and Harper can't understand why, only feeling their relationship slipping apart right in front of her. Meanwhile, Malachi spends the entire day spiraling in his head, stuck on intrusive thoughts about men, and he can't even understand where they're coming from or what they mean. Later that night, he meets Amory, yet she can feel it immediately. He isn't present with her the way he used to be. His energy is distant, like he's pulling away without knowing how to explain it. The next day, sex ed turns into a disaster. A note gets passed to one of the students, and written on it is a rumor that Harper slept with both Dusty and Malachi. Mary goes cold. She looks at Malachi, and he drops his face to the floor, unable to speak. Then she looks at Harper, and Harper can't meet her eyes either. In that moment, Mary loses it. She curses Harper out, accusing her of being determined to ruin her life. Very quickly, everyone learns Spencer wrote the note, and Malachi stands up ready to fight him. However, the teacher shuts it down and sends them to the principal's office, where they're punished. After that, Harper tries to sit with Sasha and Missy, hoping for support. However, they refuse to talk to her. They can't understand how she could get involved with the two boys Mary cared about, and they accuse her of taking advantage of Malachi when he was vulnerable, destroying him instead of helping him. Harper walks away, crushed, then goes to Dusty. Yet Dusty is done. He admits he can't forget what happened, can't accept the idea that she was with someone else and felt something for him too, and he breaks up with her. Meanwhile, Malachi finally tells Mary the truth about what happened, then says he needs space because he doesn't even know what he's thinking anymore. Mary doesn't chase him. She tells him she'll stay his friend, then walks away and leaves him to breathe. The next day is the basketball game, and Mary can see Malachi's nerves all through it. His focus is shaky, his body tense. On the sidelines, she catches Harper, Dusty, and Spencer laughing at him, mocking him for losing concentration. After the game, the team heads into the locker room, and Spencer goes after Malachi again. Malachi is already drowning. He can't forget the officer who hit him, and now he's being haunted by the humiliating clip that got posted, and he knows Spencer is behind it. Suddenly, Malachi snaps, attacks Spencer, and throws punches. However, the captain breaks them apart before it becomes worse. At that point, Malachi makes his decision. He quits the team on the spot, then walks out of the game in front of the entire school, choosing humiliation over staying trapped. Harper stands up immediately and speaks out in front of everyone, telling them what really happened. She exposes Dusty, making it clear he started the relationship and then tried to pin the blame on her. And with that, the target shifts. Suddenly, the whole school turns on Dusty, bullying him instead of Malachi. The next day, the principal calls Harper in for a meeting with her father. And this time, it's serious. She announces her decision to expel Harper from school completely. Harper breaks down on the spot, begging her not to do it, pleading that she can punish her in any way she wants until graduation, as long as she doesn't throw her out. Harper's father steps in, trying to explain that the past period has been brutally hard on Harper. However, before he can even finish, Harper cuts him off, and it becomes obvious something is wrong with her, something deeper than bad behavior. At that point, the principal changes course and decides on a different punishment instead. Harper will work in the library for the rest of the year. Meanwhile, Mary is still trying to erase everything that happened to her, and Darren decides she can't be left alone inside her head. So he pushes her to host a party at her house, inviting the whole school, hoping it will shake her out of the darkness and force life back into her hands. Not long after, sex ed class rolls around again, and Miss JoJo has the students play a specific game in the school hall. She's clearly trying to pull Mary into the group, promising her $20 if she wins, like it's a small bribe to get her smiling again. However, Spencer immediately complains, saying it's unfair. Then he starts yelling at Miss JoJo, hurling insults at her and at Harper. JoJo doesn't hesitate. She throws him out of the class. After that, she apologizes to Mary and Harper for what just happened. Yet Harper shrugs it off, says she doesn't care, and walks away. JoJo then pulls Mary aside and gets straight to the point. She doesn't care about the drama between Mary and Harper, but she can tell Mary isn't okay, and she's convinced something happened that hurt her. And suddenly, like a door cracking open, Mary begins to remember blurred flashes from the last day she was with Harper. She recalls noticing Harper's phone ringing while Harper refused to answer, so Mary asked if something was wrong. Harper insisted she was fine. Mary remembers suggesting they drink what they bought. However, Harper refused, saying she didn't want to drink anything because she needed to stay awake. Mary then went to grab a drink for herself, and when she turned back, Harper was gone. Mary searched and searched, yet she couldn't find her anywhere. Back in the present, Mary can't stop replaying those fragments. Eventually, she spots Harper sitting alone, and for a moment she wants to go over and talk, but she hesitates, then backs away, swallowing the words before they ever leave her mouth. Meanwhile, Malachi is sitting with Dusty and Spencer won't stop trashing Harper. Malachi finally snaps, then gets fed up with Dusty for staying quiet and letting it slide, so he decides he's done hanging out with them. Instead, he walks away and chooses to sit with Harper. After school, Harper goes to the doctor, and the appointment turns into a shock. She's diagnosed with an STI. The doctor tells her she has to contact everyone she's been with recently so they can be treated too. Harper is stunned, frozen, suddenly terrified of how she's supposed to face Malachi Malachi and Dusty with that truth. That night, Emery's party finally happens, and Malachi shows up with something heavy on his chest. He apologizes to Emery for hurting her, then agrees they can just be friends. In the middle of the party, Dusty drifts toward Emery, clearly trying to get under Malachi's skin, and before anyone can stop it, he pulls her into a room. At that moment, Harper sees a photo of the two of them together, and fear hits her. What if they hook up too? She jumps on her bike and races straight to Emery's house, tearing through the rooms, searching until she finds them. Then suddenly, she throws cake at Dusty, pretending it's jealousy, as if she's upset he's getting close to Emery. Emery storms out, furious, until a strange sound catches her attention. She looks up and sees Malachi standing on the roof, while students below chant for him to jump. Emery panics and begs him to come down. However, just in time, Missy's brother appears behind Malachi and pulls him back, saving him at the last second. After that, Missy and her brother take Malachi to their house to help him recover. The party collapses, everyone leaves, and Emery is left devastated because once again, everything she tries to build gets wrecked, and in her mind, it keeps tracing back to Harper. The next day, Harper gathers Malachi and Dusty together and gives them the medication they need to take for treatment. Meanwhile, Emery arrives at school with her friends, and suddenly, the principal calls her in to sit with two investigators. Elsewhere, Darren and Quinny walk into sex ed class and find a new message written on a desk, claiming Miss JoJo is in a queer relationship with Emery. Back with the investigators, they question Emery about her relationship with Miss JoJo. Emery denies it completely, insisting nothing ever happened, and in her gut, she's certain Harper is behind it. Meanwhile, the principal sits down with Miss JoJo and treats it like a full investigation. She takes JoJo's personal accounts and devices to be searched, then forces her to take leave until the inquiry is finished. Emery walks out of that interrogation shaking, completely wrecked, only to find the entire school already buzzing, whispering about her like it's confirmed. The pressure crushes her, and she finally snaps. She storms straight to Harper, picks a fight, and demands to know if Harper ever gets tired of destroying her life. Harper looks her in the eye and asks a simple question. If I told you I didn't do it, would you believe me? Emery doesn't hesitate. She says she'll never believe her again because Harper is a liar. At that moment, Harper makes a decision that costs her everything. She goes to the principal and confesses that she wrote it, and she's expelled from the school for good. Harper goes home shattered, and her father tells her she still has to continue her education. However, Harper explodes at him, storms into her room, and shuts him out. The next day, the investigation clears Miss JoJo completely. She's proven innocent. Still, JoJo decides to resign anyway. Emery and Quinny beg her to stay because they genuinely care about her. However, JoJo tells them they need to understand one thing. Everything they do has consequences, and what they're seeing right now is one of those consequences. And she's talking about herself, her life, her career. Emery refuses to accept it. She goes to the principal, pleading for JoJo to be brought back. Yet the principal says JoJo couldn't handle what happened, and the decision is hers. Emery still won't let it die. She starts searching for a way to force the school's hand, and suddenly she spots an environmental club protest happening outside. In that moment, an idea clicks. She decides to organize a student protest inside the school, hoping public pressure will make the principal meet their demands and bring JoJo back. Emery teams up with Sasha and Ant to prepare everything. They collect as much food and drinks as possible, then paint protest signs the students can hold up once it starts. After the final class ends, Darren distracts the teacher by pretending someone outside is harassing them, pushing her and the assistant to step out. As soon as they leave, the students lock the doors from the inside and demand JoJo's return. Parents begin gathering. The situation escalates fast, and the principal still refuses to give in, holding her ground while the students keep pushing back. That night, Emery ends up sitting alone, and suddenly Spencer shows up. The moment he's in front of her, Emery gets pulled back into the festival day, the night she was desperately searching for Harper, completely broken. In that memory, Spencer spots her, tries to calm her down, and in the middle of her panic, something strange sparks between them. A quiet attraction neither of them names. One thing leads to another, and they end up at Emery's house. However, Harper shows up at the door, knocking, and Emery panics. She hides so Harper won't see her with Spencer, then abruptly shuts it down, refusing to go any further, ordering Spencer to leave. And in that instant, it becomes clear. This is where Spencer's hatred for Emery begins. Back in the present, Emery looks at Spencer and claims she's fine, brushing him off like none of it matters. The next day, the protest drags on, and students start getting thirsty. Then the school's water supply cuts out completely. With everyone stuck inside, Emery decides to slip out quickly with Ant so they can fill water themselves. They sneak toward the exit. Suddenly, the school caretaker catches them and locks them in one of the rooms. That's when Ant finally confesses the truth. He's the one who called the principal to report the rumor about a Mary and Miss JoJo. And the idea didn't even start with him. Dusty came up with it. Mary is stunned because in that moment, she realizes Harper wasn't the one behind it after all. Meanwhile, Harper is at home, visibly afraid, acting like she's waiting for something bad to happen. She grabs a kitchen knife, then sits there tense and ready, like she's expecting someone specific to walk through the door. Back at school, Mary confronts Dusty, demanding to know if he did it to play her, to break her heart on purpose. Dusty admits it started as revenge. He wanted to hurt Malachi because Malachi was the reason Harper left him. However, over time, Dusty says he actually began to like Mary for real. Mary falls apart, telling him she can't trust anyone anymore. Then Dusty reveals something worse. He caught an STI from Harper, and that's why he pushed the blame onto her, accusing her of being behind the new rumor because he wanted the school to turn on her. That confession flips everything for Mary. She finally understands Harper may have been trying to protect her, not destroy her. So Mary bolts, determined to reach Harper immediately. At the same time, Harper's father comes home, and Harper rushes to hide in her room. Something is off. He doesn't feel like the same man. Harper asks him if he's really her dad. Then suddenly, he kicks the door open and lunges at her. A little later, Mary reaches Harper's house and freezes. An ambulance is parked outside. Fear hits her instantly, and she rushes forward, expecting the worst, until she sees Harper standing right there. Harper's face is covered in blood, her whole body shaking, and she says the same words like they've become a curse. It happened again. For the first time in what feels like forever, Harper finally sits down with Mary and decides to tell her everything. No dodging, no half-truths, no silence. The story rewinds to the festival day. Harper is there with Mary, the music loud, the crowd moving, the night spinning fast. At some point, Harper's phone dies, and she can't reach Mary, so she chooses to keep dancing, trying to stay calm and ride it out. Meanwhile, she keeps drinking, until she gets drunk enough to lose track of time. Later on, Harper comes to and realizes she isn't at the festival anymore. She's in a car with Cash's gang. Their leader is Dante, and it becomes clear he's the one who came up with the idea to take her. They drive her out to a remote place, planning to assault her. On the way, they stop at a gas station. Dante gets out to buy something, leaving Harper trapped in the back seat with one of the guys beside her. At that moment, Cash looks back, sees what's happening, and makes a choice. He quietly opens the door for her. Harper doesn't hesitate. She bolts, runs like her life depends on it, back and disappears into the trees. Eventually, she manages to hide in the forest, trembling, barely breathing, until Dante and the others lose her trail and finally drive away. Still terrified, Harper runs straight to Mary's house for help. However, when she arrives, she hears Mary inside with Spencer. Harper takes it the wrong way. She assumes Mary doesn't want her there, doesn't want her to stay the night, so she walks away without knocking again. And in that moment, she decides she won't speak to Mary after that. Harper returns home, hoping at least home will be safe. Instead, the second she walks in, she realizes her father is acting strangely. He starts talking about a wolf circling the house, saying he's scared it will get inside. Then suddenly, his eyes lock onto Harper, and he asks her who she is. Harper breaks, telling him she's his daughter. However, he says he feels like she's the wolf, and he lunges at her. Harper barely makes it to her room in time, slams the door, locks herself in, and spends the entire night awake in fear, unable to even cry properly because she doesn't know what's worse, what the gang almost did to her, or her own father thinking she's a wolf and trying to kill her. The next day, an ambulance arrives and takes her father to the hospital, and it's revealed he's mentally ill. After that, Harper goes into the bathroom, shaves her head, then leaves to live with a foster family until her father is released. Mary can't even process what she's hearing. She's stunned that her best friend was carrying all of that alone, right beside her, without Mary ever realizing. In that moment, Mary chooses forgiveness. She tells Harper she's sorry, that she believes her, and she's ready to let go of everything that happened between them. Then, Mary pushes her toward the one thing that matters most, reporting the boys who tried to assault her. However, Harper already knows how this usually goes. She says the police won't help because there's no proof. And she's right. When they try to move forward, the police can't arrest anyone due to lack of evidence. Meanwhile, Cash decides to do what the system won't. He goes after Dante's phone, the one that contains a recording of Harper's kidnapping. As soon as he gets it, Cash sends the video to Mary. Mary takes it straight to Harper, and together with Harper's mother, they go to report everything shown on the footage. This time, the evidence is real. The police arrest everyone who appears in the video, except Dante, because he isn't visible on camera. That's when Harper reaches her limit. She decides she's going to get revenge herself. So Harper and Mary go to the place Dante always hangs around. Then they wait. Eventually, he steps out of his car, and Harper rushes in, smashing it with everything she has, unleashing all the fear and rage she's been swallowing. Then she sets the car on fire. Before anyone can stop them, she escapes with Amiri. After that, Harper and Amiri stand together again, back as friends in front of the whole school. And somehow, the atmosphere shifts. Students start treating each other differently, like the chaos finally taught them something. The cruelty fades. People begin forgiving each other, and even Miss JoJo is forgiven, as everyone decides to turn the page and start over with a clean slate.